So I started playing D&D like a year and a half ago, and I think every time I've run a campaign, I've had at least one or two brand new people that have never played before. But every time I finish a campaign and we go to start a new one, no one else is ever super interested in being the DM for a future campaign. And I think that's really sad. And there are apparently a shortage of DMs out in the world because there are places like game cafes that will literally pay you or give you discounts on merch or food if you will go and DM for them on a regular basis or DM a game at their location. So if you play D&D regularly, or maybe you haven't gotten into it yet, and you're interested or you've thought maybe a little bit, you know what, hell, maybe you haven't even thought about DMing yet. This is going to be my attempt to sway you to at least give it a try, to try DMing and just see if it's for you. I have DM'd more than I have played, certainly, and I actually DM'd a campaign completely before I actually completed a campaign as a player. And I think I've honestly hit the point where I enjoy DMing more than I enjoy playing the game as a player. So let's go ahead and talk about why you should try being a DM. Go ahead and hit the like button, the subscribe button, and let's get into it. So first, I think I would be doing a disservice if I didn't mention the pitfalls or some of the bad things about being a DM. I won't sugarcoat it. I don't always enjoy being a DM. But on the flip side, I don't always enjoy being a player either. So first thing about being a DM that's not great, it does take a decent amount of work. You've got just like literal books that you have to read, and you have to be relatively familiar with a lot of different things in Dungeons and Dragons. Now, don't get me wrong, you certainly don't have to memorize every single class, every single spell, every single monster. But in general, I think on average, it takes me about an hour or two to prep for a 4-hour session. And I think that hour or two is what scares people, thinking about, oh, that's one more thing I have to do. I would say I actually really enjoy prepping for D&D. I think some people find it to be a chore. I really enjoy getting to prepare the combat encounters, the monsters, getting in the minds of the different NPCs that the players are going to meet. But some people do see it as a chore, and I would encourage you to try to not think of it that way if you try DMing. But regardless, it is still a time suck. You do still have to spend dedicated time where you are preparing for the adventure that your players are going to play on. That being said, I'll probably make a future video about how I prepare. It doesn't have to be like super intense and like you're sitting at a desk with a pencil like you're having writer's block. I'll be honest, whenever I prep, I'm not going to make a video like I would realistically prep because that usually happens at 11 o'clock at night while I'm in my bed with something on TV with my laptop and like just books covering my bed. Like it's usually pretty informal, but I make it work and we have fun. But yeah, to recap, it's a decent amount of work. Next up, and this is easily the biggest pitfall for me, and this is the thing that I dislike the most about being a DM and sometimes makes me not want to DM, and that is you are going to have conflict with your players sometimes, and that's just a fact of life. There are going to be times where you make a ruling on a rule because there is room for interpretation within the rules. There's going to be times when you make a ruling that your players do not like. There's going to be a time where your players have thought of a really, really cool idea that sounds really cool in their mind, but maybe doesn't mesh super well with the mechanics, or maybe in your opinion, it is abusing the rules and you may have to shut down what they think is a really cool idea, and that may make them unhappy and you may have a little bit of friction there. You can decently mitigate this with a couple of different practices. One is having a session 0 where you talk about what are going to be the rules, what are we going to do to mitigate conflict. You know, we may have the rule where, okay, I am going to make a ruling off the table unless this is something that's going to drastically impact the course of the entire campaign, which generally that doesn't happen. I will make a ruling at the table and then we will follow up on it later so we don't bog down the entire session. It also helps if you're playing with people that have like-minded play styles. In my opinion, most of the pieces of friction that have come with players are usually with players that don't enjoy playing Dungeons and Dragons in the same way as me. Typically, that comes in the form of power gaming. I'm not gonna try to make this like be a lecture against power gaming because that has its place and there are people that enjoy that. That's not going to be me. So whenever I have a player at my table that is really into that and they're like, I would like to fly 37 feet up in the air, stand right in the middle of 2 squares and then shoot at like a 37-degree angle so I can hit every single person with my cone of cold. And I'm like, no, I'm not breaking out the Pythagorean theorem. I'm not getting out a protractor. Just do it on the ground, please, or do it directly above so I can just see pretty easily who it hits. If you're a power gamer, you may think I'm a really bad DM, and that's what I mean. Play with people that have like-minded playstyles so you don't have to have that level of friction. It also helps if you play with your friends, people that you know reasonably well, people that you have rapport with, so that if you do get into an argument, you're pretty sure that like that relationship is not going to be irrevocably damaged. But I am a people pleaser and I really don't like getting into arguments with people. It gives me a lot of stress. Just negativity in general gives me a lot of stress. And so that's a part of DMing that I don't really love. There are ways to get around it, but sometimes it's just going to happen. One that was hard for me, and this was particularly hard when I started playing, and this is because, like I said, I DM'd before I ever actually completed a campaign as a player. I had played like 2 sessions as a player and then COVID happened. We won't get into that. Is I missed out on the feeling of winning.
You have no skills and you're a loser!
Because whenever you go into D&D as a player, you're the hero. You get to win the combats, hopefully. You get to be the hero of the entire campaign. And as the DM, you're never gonna have that feeling because most of the time you are representing a lot of the bad guys and you're constantly getting defeated. So especially, I don't know, maybe this is just my opinion and my experience, but as a brand new DM, I missed out on that feeling of like getting to win. It's something that I really quickly got over and I realized, okay, I enjoy watching other people win. I'm here to set them up for success, not like win and kill them. But especially if you're used to playing and being the hero, switching to where like if you have that mindset, you're always losing, that could be a little bit of a shock. I think there are a lot of other fears and other things that can prevent people from being a DM, like the fear of failure, the fear of performance anxiety, the fear from being underappreciated, because it is a decent amount of work that you're putting into the game. There is pressure on you, or mostly pressure on yourself that you put on yourself, to run a good game. I think once you start and once you get into it, those kind of subside. You get used to it. You get comfortable with your players. You understand their playstyles. You understand what they expect of you, and you know what you expect of them. So those are kind of my last options, and I put them at the end because they're things that definitely matter. But I think as you DM a few sessions, those kind of go by the wayside and you get a little bit more comfortable with it. Now, that being said, let's talk about why I really enjoy DMing and why I think you should give it a try. First off, let's start with the obvious one. You always get to play. Whenever you're playing D&D as a player, if you're in combat, you always have to like wait for your turn. And that, depending on who you're playing with and their level of experience and if they're a spellcaster or not, you may be waiting a decent amount of time before your turn gets back up. So you're sitting there on Instagram playing, oh yeah, I do Eldritch Blast. All right, someone else go. And that can be annoying as a player. When you're the DM, you're running all of the monsters. You're determining if the monsters are getting hit or not. You are constantly involved in everything that is happening. So you are constantly getting to play, which for me is a lot of fun. I enjoy being at D&D so that I get to play the game. And it's very fulfilling as a DM that I'm always getting to play the game, whether that's social interactions, whether that's combat encounters, whether that's puzzles. Okay, well, I guess with puzzles, you get to watch people not figure it out. But that's also pretty fun if I'm being honest. The second reason that I really like being a DM is because I don't know if you guys are like me in this. Whenever I play Baldur's Gate 3, I go through Act 1, typically most of Act 2. By the time sometimes when I'm in somewhere in Act 2, or maybe I'm in Act 3, I'm kind of bored with the character I made. I need something different. And thankfully Baldur's Gate 3, you can go talk to Withers and change your class, but like, I want to play different things. I mean, as long as it's always a warlock. I really just want to play a different flavor of warlock, if we're being honest. The warlock is my favorite class, but in general, I'm playing right now as, I think, a warlock in Baldur's Gate. But like the monk is also super fun. I really like playing a monk. And in 5e, I've been reading about the fighter, been experiencing the fighters just destroy my campaigns I've written. And I'm like, okay, maybe a fighter would be cool to try just to get that exposure to like absolutely wrecking entire combat encounters. And guess what? When you're the DM, you can straight up do that. If you're like, man, I really wish that I could play a monk. Boom. Guess what? Next encounter, they meet a monk. Maybe they fight, maybe they don't. But now you just introduce a monk NPC. Congratulations. Ever wanted to be a support class? Make an NPC that doesn't really contribute to anything other than being a support player. And now there's a bard supporting your party. Want to be a sorcerer that has a lot of cool spells? Cool, introduce a lich, introduce a mage, an archmage, put a spellcaster in there and boom, you get to control a spellcaster and play with spells now. The fact that you get to vary your playstyle so much, that scratches a massive itch for D&D that I love because I hate committing so much to a class or a playstyle. That's why I like the warlock so much, is because you can swap up your playstyle truly so much that a lot of other classes aren't necessarily afforded. But yeah, being able to play as different types of monsters, being good, being bad, being a spellcaster, being a fighter, just like all in the same session is super fun. It keeps you on your toes, and it just fulfills a lot of things for me that I really love. Now, this is one that I have on my notes saved for last, but I know what my audience rotations looks like when it gets towards the end of a video. And I'm gonna be honest, this is too important to leave for the end, and that is you are fulfilling an important need for a group. If I hadn't volunteered to be the DM for my group that started when I DM'd my very first campaign, I might not have gotten into D&D because no one wants to be the DM. It is a lot of work. There is a lot of pressure, and no one wants to do it. You are fulfilling an incredibly important role in your party by being the DM, and hopefully it does not go underappreciated because the work you put in is the reason your friends get to play with you. It can be super fun to create your own world, to create the characters, to create the story, but at the end of the day, you are serving a very noble purpose in that the game would not exist without you. And that, I don't know, it feels kind of good to be able to do that for people. I am an acts of service guy. But I like to be there and do that for my friends so they get to enjoy a hobby that I really enjoy as well. Another reason that I enjoy DMing, I am by no means like a film buff. Like, I'm never that person that like watches a movie and like has the most critical opinion of it. But I feel like we all watch a TV show, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Lord of the Rings, whatever it is, and we disagree with how the IP handled a certain character. Like, oh, Luke Skywalker would never have done this. Or, you know, Frodo would never have said this. You get to be the showrunner for your campaign. If you didn't like how Lord of the Rings handled a certain thing, run a campaign similar to Lord of the Rings. Right the wrong that you feel like they did. Make a Star Wars campaign. And if you didn't like what they did with Yoda in episode 3, I don't know, I'm making shit up right now. You can do it a different way. You can represent characters the way that you think makes the most sense for your fantasy world. So having that level of control of crafting a story that makes sense to you, that like you've dreamed, you watched Game of Thrones and you were like, but what would it be like if they changed this? You have the power to do that, to craft the story where you get to be like, what if we did this? Well, I can just do that. Granted, your players may mess all of that up, but that's also part of the fun. Honestly, one that I don't have on my list because it does not scratch an itch for me as a DM, but I know it does for a lot of people, is world building, getting to create a fantasy world, getting to be Tolkien, to be George R.R. Martin, and create this fantasy world and create governments and create people and rulers and villains. That's a really powerful incentive for a lot of people to DM. I run a lot of pre-written modules because I've tried to write my own campaigns, and it's something that I'm working through as a newer DM, and it's hard. I don't feel like I'm the most creative person on the block. So that's not something that appeals to me. I like using things that were written by other people that are better writers than I am and expanding on what they have done. But people that love creating new things, creating worlds, this is a great creative outlet for you. My biggest word of caution though, if that is something that really incentivizes you, make sure that you are doing it for you. Your motive behind it is because you really enjoy world making and not because you need that level of buy-in from your players, or you need their satisfaction, or for them to enjoy it as much as you do. Because I don't know how your guys' players are, or how you are as players. My party members do not ask me the names of my NPCs 90% of the time. One of my campaigns I'm running is Tomb of Annihilation. I think 4 of the merchant princes of Portney and Zaru are arguably the most important people in the main city. They have no idea who they are or if they even exist. I think that they've met 2 like notable NPCs in our past like 2 or 3 weeks, and I don't believe they ever asked for their names. The NPC had to ask their names, and they're like, oh yeah, we should probably figure out what this guy's name is. Let alone if I decided to write a constitution for this fantasy world that I made, or write a rule of laws, or all of the culture and all of the history and all of the background of all of the world. I'm gonna tell you, I don't know how your experience will be. My players will never ask about it. They will never care about it. And if I like force fed that into them and made them learn it, they would not have fun. So that's not to say you shouldn't play D&D and be a DM because you like creating fantasy worlds. Just do it for you. Don't do it with the expectation that your players are going to be in awe and are going to ask you, please, can I learn about the preamble of the Constitution for Fortlandia? They're probably not going to care, but you did it, you made it, and you're proud of it. And that's what's important. And then finally, I thought to myself, like I was writing my notes and I was like, why do I like being a DM? And honestly, I think one of my favorite things is creating encounters and just seeing the crazy ways people figure out how to solve them. Like players naturally come up with really crazy solutions that you will never think of as a DM. And whenever you are a DM, you may have thought out a very clear way for a problem to be solved. And they may come up with something crazy different that you had never, ever thought of. And that's something that you should love. That should be something that's a turn on as a DM. Is like, wow, I never thought of that. And that just, for me, it flows the creative juices even more. It gives me more things to think about for the next encounter I think of. And I'm like, ooh, what kind of cool ways, what kind of cool little outlets could I give them? And so I put these cool things in there and they never use them and they come up with something even crazier. And for me, that's always, I don't know. Some people may find it a letdown that you put these Easter eggs or you put these really clever things they could find on how to solve problems, and then they find really clever ways. For me, watching people solve puzzles in really cool ways, and sometimes more importantly, watching them fail to solve a puzzle in a really creative way is really, really fun. Like I was running Vecna Eve of Ruin, and the party I think spent 40 or 45 minutes trying to figure out a really good rock solid plan on how they could invade the sanctuary on Kryn without alerting the guards that had horns that were obviously going to call in like the infantry. And they spent like 45 minutes. They had a plan, they put it in, and then they all rolled like 5 on initiative and all of the guards went first and boom, it was over. That was really entertaining for me. They were let down obviously, but I was like, this was so much fun to watch this go down. And then just like, I rolled a 3. That's a 3 on initiative. Sorry, oh, I need to save. That's a 7. Does a 7 save? As long as you can accept and they can accept that failure is fun, watching that is also really entertaining. So guys, I don't know. I don't know if I swayed you into trying DMing, but give it a try. Just make up like a little one shot or go find a campaign. Do like Death House from Curse of Strahd, which is not a one shot. Do that in like 2 or 3 sessions. Go find like Curse of Strahd. Go find a module, a pre-written module, find a portion of it, like a side quest from it, and run it as a DM and just see how it feels. How does it feel to create a character, to create combat encounters, to get to play all these different kinds of things? How does it feel to run social encounters and get in the minds of these NPCs and get to role play as them and see how your characters interact? And if you are a DM or you have DM'd before and you have something that you really love about DMing that I didn't mention, let me know and let everyone else know down in the comments, because I think the world would be a better place if it had more DMs in it. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in a later video. Thanks so much.